Over the past few weeks, I have become addicted to grinding out weapon camos in the pursuit of the Dark Aether Mastery Camo. I have changed my mentality from thinking about what map I want to play to a mentality where I ask myself what I need to do in order to get the next weapon, gold. I have begun to draw inspiration and motivation from FaZe Jev's Modern Warfare videos where he grinds out Damascus and Obsidian for every weapon. As of now, I currently only have 6 weapons left to unlock Dark Aether. After the countless hours of turning off my brain and sitting on the top floor of Noct, after using all of my weapon XP tokens, after my eyes have glazed over and there is no enjoyment left in my heart, I have come to the conclusion that the Dark Aether camo grind is an abysmal excuse for a camo grind, and one of the least enjoyable ones that we have ever had in any Call of Duty ever. Don't get me wrong, I am pleased to see that Treyarch took the feedback the community expressed back in Black Ops 4 about wanting a completionist camo that was unique to the zombie mode, but the specific implementation of it is where issues start to arise. Our first problem is the most obvious problem that the entire community has spoken about when Cold War first launched: weapon XP. The main issue with the entire Dark Aether camo grind is the fact that weapons level up at a snail's pace if players exclusively play the zombie mode. This is a result of a handful of design decisions that seemingly come from a good place, yet create an excruciatingly painful player experience. The first design decision was to reward players playing in cooperative games significantly more experience than players playing solo. Players will receive a noticeably larger amount of both weapon and player XP when playing with more players. The reason behind this decision was to help supplement any lost XP that happens in cooperative games of zombies. Because developers cannot perfectly multiply the number of zombies in-game depending on how many players there are, each zombie then, as a result, needs to be worth more XP in co-op. However, doing so to the extent that they have with whatever multiplayer they have in place has created a detrimental gap in potential XP for cooperative games versus solo games. All one needs to do is take a look at these graphs to realize just how blatant the difference is. These numbers and graphs were researched and created by a smart guy. The link to his video will be in the description. Let's take a look at round 30. For solo players, there is a maximum potential of 62 XP. As for the 4-player games, there is a maximum potential of 627 XP. There is 10 times more XP potential for only 4 times the amount of players. This makes absolutely no sense. Let's pretend that 627 XP was split perfectly between the 4 players. That would give each player a total of 156 XP, which is 3 times the maximum potential XP if those players would have been playing solo. Keep in mind that this was just at round 30. The gap in XP continues the further into the rounds you go. Despite this, I'm not comfortable saying that players are being punished for playing solo, but I will say that it seems Treyarch is intentionally, heavily discouraging players from playing solo. While we're taking a look at those graphs, please take a note of the solo XP gains in the high rounds compared to the low rounds. This brings us to our second detrimental design decision. As you see in the graph, every single round of solo zombies has a maximum potential XP gain of 50 to 60. Now, upon hearing this for the first time, it doesn't seem so bad. Having each round reward the player with the same amount of XP sorta makes sense, until you give it any thought whatsoever. Round 40 should not give the same amount of XP as round 10. Round 40 takes more time to get to, it takes more time to progress through, and it takes way more skill to get to. Not all rounds take the same amount of skill, and therefore, logically, not all rounds should reward the same amount of XP. However, for solo players, all rounds reward the same amount of XP. This is personally my biggest issue with the XP system. If every round is going to reward the same amount of XP, as a result, the most efficient way of grinding out XP is to fly through the early rounds and then quit when the rounds start to get longer. This is exactly what we see when you look for fast leveling strategies in Cold War Zombies. Play Die Maschine until round 10, quit, repeat. Play Outbreak World 1 until you've killed a lot of zombies, quit, repeat. Treyarch has made one of the most innovative, engaging, fun, and addicting zombie modes that we have ever seen. Between upgrading your loadout weapon's rarity all the way up until it's level 5, pack-a-punching both of your weapons until they are level 3 with ammo mods, buying every single perk you can, and equipping yourself with the equipment and kill streaks you want, that sense of escalation, that player progression is the best thing to happen to zombies since Black Ops 3. And in order to be as efficient as possible with XP, solo players are heavily discouraged from ever experiencing any part of it. You might be thinking that maybe Treyarch doesn't want to have the high rounds reward players with too much XP because they wouldn't want someone to be able to go to round like 70 and get a weapon max level in one game. I have two responses to this. First, if someone is capable and willing to go to round 70 with just their weapon, they have earned the right to have that weapon max level. Secondly, and the worst part about all of this, is that Treyarch fully understands how this is detrimental to the solo player experience, but for some reason, they haven't done anything about it. The reason I know Treyarch knows that this is an issue is that if we take a look at that graph again, you can see that the maximum potential XP per round continues upwards for every other type of cooperative game, but not solo. This means that if you are playing a game of co-op, every round is going to reward you with more and more XP, as it should, because that's what makes sense. The only type of game that does not reward more XP for higher rounds is solo, which, as we previously discussed, are already getting a fraction of XP as their co-op counterparts. So, if Treyarch were truly afraid of having people grind out a single weapon in a single high round game, why make it possible in co-op games but not solo? It makes absolutely no sense. I won't spend too much time talking about an intricate solution to these problems because I don't think Treyarch has any plans for implementing a solution at this point in the game's life cycle. Plus, the solution is rather simple. For solo players, I would increase the base XP gain across the board. Additionally, I would increase the maximum potential XP gain per round, just like it is in co-op games. The upsides to this are so obvious. This would make it so that players are no longer discouraged from playing solo, and it would make going for high rounds the most efficient way of gaining weapon XP. As the zombie mode is all about how high of a round you can go to, and solo being the most popular way of playing zombies, this is one simple change that could completely reinvigorate the player base's passion for grinding out Dark Aether. Moving on to the next issue with the Dark Aether Camo grind, weapon levels. Slow weapon leveling is not exclusively a problem with players not being rewarded enough weapon XP. It is accompanied by a bizarre and inconsistent weapon leveling system that no one really knows why it is the way it is. Let's take a look at Smart Guy's data. You can see that weapon levels 1 through 20 take about the same amount of XP, and then when we hit weapon level 21, the amount of XP required per level starts to increase significantly. The main issue with the system is player perception. When players first begin leveling up a weapon, it is fast and fun. Playing a single game of zombies can level up a weapon upwards of a dozen times, which is fantastic. It makes the player feel like they're making a lot of progress. Until the weapon reaches the 20s or 30s, and especially the 40s and 50s, where that same single game of zombies will only rank up the weapon 2 or maybe 3 times if they're lucky. Having the early levels paced so quickly only to have the mid to high levels take significantly longer creates a frustrating player experience. Players go from leveling up weapons quickly and feeling rewarded after every few rounds to being starved for weapon levels, lucky to see their weapon level up once every dozen or so rounds. For the life of me, I truly cannot put my finger on why Treyarch has created such a ludicrous weapon XP requirement for their weapon levels. In any case, I have a couple of different ideas. The most obvious idea is to evenly distribute the weapon XP requirements so that each level takes a little longer than the one previous. This would eliminate the easygoing first 20 levels, which might feel a bit slower. However, it would also decrease some of the later level XP requirements, making those levels feel a bit more balanced and fun. This would create a more consistent feeling of progression and a more pleasant player experience. There is another option that isn't so obvious and would require a complete redesign of the gunsmith within Cold War. Instead of limiting the weapon levels to 55 for every primary, I would enjoy seeing weapon levels mimic the weapon levels of Modern Warfare's multiplayer. Something I noticed while grinding out Damascus in Modern Warfare was that every single game I would usually rank up my weapon. It wouldn't matter if the weapon was level 5 or level 50. If I played a game and did alright, the weapon would level up at least once every game. In other words, instead of having fewer weapon levels with a high XP requirement, I would love to see weapons have more weapon levels with a lower XP requirement. This would not change the overall amount of weapon XP required per weapon, but it would change how frequently the player gets rewarded. Granted, this would require the developers to completely redesign their gunsmith in Cold War, but Modern Warfare was able to do it, and in my opinion, Infinity Ward handled weapon leveling extraordinarily well in that game. If it wasn't already obvious, the underlying positive outcome of using this weapon leveling philosophy is an increase in player engagement. If players always ranked up their weapon, say 10 levels for each game of zombies, they would continue to feel rewarded even throughout the high levels of their weapon. In return, instead of only going through 55 weapon levels, perhaps the developers would require them to go through 75 weapon levels to reach the max rank. The result would be the same amount of required XP, but a measurably more engaged player base. While most of these solutions could never get implemented into Cold War's lifecycle, my next solution is something I could truly see implemented this year. Make the double XP and double weapon XP tokens purchasable with COD points and prestige keys. First of all, I have no interest in purchasing any of the previous calling cards or emblems from the prestige shop. I get it, it's nostalgic for some people, and I have found a few that I like, but I still have prestige keys to spare. I would love to be able to spend those keys on hours of double XP, but I don't think that is what would get implemented. I think it would be a genius level decision by Treyarch and Activision to sell players those double XP tokens straight up for COD points. I am well aware that many bundles in the store have those XP tokens, but players aren't going to spend $10 to $20 for a single XP token. No, I picture selling the hour-long XP token for something like $2. I would totally be willing to spend $10 for 5 hours of double weapon XP. This is a huge opportunity for Activision. It just makes too much sense. And if implemented, it could make a lot of dollars too. All of that being said, most players can articulate the mind-numbingly sluggish weapon XP in the later levels, and any player who plays solo will be able to discern how disastrous high rounds are for ranking up weapons. Though, I have seldom seen players discuss the last issue I have with the Dark Aether Camo grind. Boring camo challenges. And it's not just the fact that these challenges are boring, it's also the fact that these challenges can be completed too quickly. If you go on YouTube, Reddit, or any type of forum where people are trying to give out tips and tricks for unlocking Dark Aether, you will find many people stating the fact that the hardest part about this camo grind is not the challenges themselves, but rather leveling up the weapon enough to unlock those challenges. This is probably the reason why many players focus so much of their attention on the weapon XP problems. Yet, I believe some of my ideas can prove to not only create a more engaging camo challenge system, but also reduce some of the exhaustion felt by the weapon leveling system. The first addition would be to implement challenges at weapon levels 15, 25, 35, 45, and perhaps even 55. This would naturally increase the amount of player engagement since players would have more tasks to complete along the way to getting a gun gold. Moreover, having more challenges would provide players with more weapon XP, which would help negate the slow progression of the later weapon levels. Wait, does completing weapon challenges award weapon XP? Huh. I guess not. Well, let's just add that to the list. I would make it so that these camo challenges reward weapon XP as well. Not only would I add more challenges throughout the weapon leveling process, but I would also add more camos per challenge. Instead of only having 5 camos per challenge, I would at least double that and have 10 or more camos to reward players for each set of challenges. This does not require an increase in completion amount for these challenges. Players can still be required to get 2,500 kills. However, instead of only rewarding 5 camos, I would love to see players rewarded with more camos along the way. This would naturally increase the feeling of accomplishment players had while completing these challenges. Once again, I'm going to turn our attention to Modern Warfare 2019. It seemed as though in every match of Modern Warfare, I unlocked a new camo for some small part of a challenge that I completed. This gave me a wonderful sense of progression, and combined with the sheer amount of challenges needed to unlock gold, turned out to be especially addicting game design. Modern Warfare was the first Call of Duty since Call of Duty Ghosts where I got every single weapon gold, which should go to show you just how well designed that camo grind truly was on some level. Adding more challenges and more camo rewards are all well and good. However, the problem that I had with these challenges was that they are boring. In other words, unengaging. These challenges never challenge the player into playing a different way, with the one possible exception being the 20 kills without dying challenge. Now right off the bat, I'm gonna admit a lot of challenges in these camo grinds aren't necessarily challenging. When talking about the zombie mode especially, challenging challenges are difficult to come up with. In fact, I think the get 10 kills rapidly and get 3 critical kills rapidly challenges suit the zombie mode really well and could be a staple challenge in the future of zombies. Personally, I think the problem with those two challenges specifically is the number of times the game requires you to complete them. I can easily complete those entire camo challenges within a handful of rounds. Getting 2,500 headshots or pack-a-punch kills is going to take multiple games to complete, so having challenges that you can complete by round 20 isn't engaging whatsoever. The same goes for the elite eliminations thanks to Firebase Z. My solution to this would simply be to increase the number of completions required to unlock for those camos. Returning to my previous point, I do not believe challenges need to be challenging in order to be good challenges, at least for a Call of Duty Zombies camo grind. Notwithstanding, I do believe that challenges need to be engaging in order to be good challenges. I believe this is a huge missed opportunity by Treyarch here in Cold War Zombies. Most of these challenges do not force players to play any differently than they would normally play. Killing zombies with headshots, pack-a-punched weapons, killing zombies quickly, not getting hit. All of these things are just how the zombie mode is played. Players never go out of their way to complete these challenges, and as a result, they feel underwhelming and unengaging. What makes it that much more disappointing is that we have seen Treyarch create engaging challenges in multiplayer and even previous zombie titles. Most of the challenges that I'm about to suggest have been implemented in some form or fashion in another aspect of Call of Duty. Rather than taking a bunch of time talking about these challenges individually, I'm just going to list off all of the challenges that I thought of off the top of my head. Kills without any attachments, kills with all attachments, kills at max weapon rarity, kills at lowest weapon rarity, ADS kills, hipfire kills, point blank kills, long shot kills, crawler kills, kill enemies without moving, kill enemies while moving backwards, kill enemies while near death, critical kills with deadshot, kill enemies that are stunned by your stun grenade, kill enemies that are distracted by your decoy grenade, kill enemies in the Dark Aether, kill enemies with shatterblast, napalm burst, cryo freeze, deadwire turned, kill enemies while inside your ring of fire, kill enemies while hidden with Aether Shroud, kill enemies slowed by your toxic growth, kill enemies frozen by frost blast, kill enemies slowed by frenzied guard. Tombstone. Keep in mind, this list is just off the top of my head. Every single suggestion on this list is something that would encourage players to play in a way that they may or may not have been playing. I know there are some weird situations on this list. Long shots would have been awful to try and complete without Outbreak. Obviously, Frenzied Guard, Toxic Growth, and Shatterblast weren't available at launch. However, you could imagine the PPSH coming out alongside Toxic Growth, and Toxic Growth kills are a requirement to get the PPSH Gold. In my opinion, that would have been so refreshing to see. These challenges would not necessarily be all that much more challenging, yet most of these would force players to experience all aspects of Cold War Zombies, everything from ammo mods, equipment, field upgrades, weapon rarities, and as a result, players would have a much better understanding of every aspect of the game, and they would be actively encouraged to change their playstyle and experience something different. Naturally, the number of required kills would have to be balanced appropriately. This brings up a positive point that I haven't mentioned yet. When it comes to kills, headshots, and pack-a-punch kills, I believe Treyarch did a great job balancing the number of kills required for those challenges. It generally takes more than one game, but isn't as egregious as some of the kill requirements we saw back in Black Ops 4. Thanks for listening to the community, Treyarch. Good job. That actually brings up another good point I forgot to mention. Thanks to Cold War's loadout system, players do not need to spin the box to get a specific weapon they are trying to get gold, so the kill requirement challenges can be more appropriately tuned for a more pleasant player experience. All of that to say, I would be more than happy to complete all of these suggested challenges in order to unlock gold for every weapon. The last solution I have to present today is something that I found incredibly useful way back in 2011 with Modern Warfare 3, attachment challenges. It's simple. Implement optional challenges for every attachment for every weapon that rewards weapon XP. Obviously, the kill requirement would need to be significantly decreased, but getting 50 or so kills with each optic really wouldn't be all that bad in my opinion. Alongside my previous suggestion with implementing more challenges, having these optional attachment challenges would encourage players to play around with their setup, try out some new reticles, and truly experiment with each and every weapon. And having an optional way to supplement weapon XP would help all around. So, is the Dark Aether camo grind the worst camo grind in any Call of Duty ever? Probably not. But between the nonsensical solo XP, the lackluster challenge system, and the excruciatingly painful weapon leveling, this is perhaps one of the most boring and unengaging camo grinds we've ever experienced. There are countless places to improve, and there have been several missed opportunities to keep players engaged and addicted to unlocking camos. Still, if we have learned anything from Cold War, especially with the most recent announcement of the upcoming zombie updates, it's that Treyarch will listen to the community eventually. This video may have no impact on Cold War, but in Treyarch's next title, we will hopefully see an even better camo challenge grind than we were given in Cold War. During this camo grind, you may find yourself lost in a dark place, trapped inside an ethereal plane that you cannot escape. But if you keep a level head and prevail through those challenging times, you may just be rewarded with something that was worth the experience. Thank you all so much for watching, and your support of this channel has been out of this world. I have seen Treyarch's latest blog post about the updates they plan to implement, and I am beyond excited to experience them. In the meantime, let me know if you have unlocked Dark Aether. Did you enjoy it? What would you change about it? Or what's stopping you from completing it? Of course, if you enjoyed the video, be sure to leave a like, join my Discord, and subscribe for more Cold War Zombies content. And as always, stay beautiful.